25th. We're burning midnight. We're burning the midnight oil. Let me make sure I plug this in. Should have done that before I went on. Okay, so it is April 25th, 2026, and we are at day 2091. 2091 days since hell, right? Since hell. Since really demons forcibly removed Richard Halliday, our son, from his barracks room right there on Fort Bliss, a U.S. military installation in El Paso, Texas. That's right, American soil. And they dragged him down to the basement room, to the arms room, where they took his life and then they desecrated his body. They stole his body off of Fort Bliss, they dismembered him, and they trafficked uh, his body to Juárez. Evidence indicates they harvested his organs, and we are at 2,091 days. And why did they do this to him? Because he was a whistleblower, and we have a breach of security on the border. We have a huge breach, and everything that is coming out in the news now corroborates what we have been saying for almost 6 years now, that there is a breach in security, that the cartel has breached our infrastructure, that they have breached our military, our agencies, our courts, um, our communities, and that cartel breaches even Mexican agencies and institutions. Okay, this is not just on the U.S. side. This is also on the Mexican side, and I would say it extends more than that. But for the sake of keeping it a very complex situation a little bit more simple, we're going to talk about Governor Abbott and Governor Maru Campos. Governor Greg Abbott, of course, is the governor of the great state of Texas, and Governor Maru Campos is the governor of Chihuahua, Mexico. And they border each other, right? And the epicenter is El Paso. So let's get started. And we're going to really focus on that because it is all about Richard's. This is why Richard, um, that these cartel demons in the military and some not in the military could uh, breach Fort Bliss, breach the barracks, breach Richard's room, and breach the arms room. Because you have to remember, and you might not know this, but our family knows this, that the arms room is not a room that all the military has access to. It's not like a cafeteria. It's not like, an order, what do you call the community room, right? That's not what this is. This is an arms room. This is where the weapons are. And you have to be like the platoon leader. You have to be like Dallas Hart to have access to this room where they took him and took his life. And then who is the prime suspect? Well, we know from all of our evidence that it points to Dallas Hart, who happens to be Richard's platoon leader that has access to the arms room, the the crime scene, right? Richard's room is a crime scene, but the arms room where they took his life is a crime scene that had the seal on it that Major General James Eisenhower gave an illegal order to um, to renovate to tamper with the evidence, to cover the evidence by renovating the arms room with an illegal order to bypass regular protocol for bidding of contractors at any expense. It didn't matter. Renovate that arms room. So I'm going to play a video for you today because I think it's really important because Richard started reporting in Qatar, or you can say Qatar. And I think it's, well, let me just show you the images first. I think maybe, um, let's see if I can move this so I can show it to you. I thought I could move it over. Let's see if it works. Yeah, I think that'll work. Yeah. So let's turn this on. So when Richard joined the Army, he was 18, and he was the Distinguished Honor Graduate number one. Number one, so excited. And I've posted up his letter that he wrote to his grandparents. It's like less than 1% of any soldier would write a letter from basic training to their grandparents, but that's Richard. Richard did. And it really reveals his character and what was going on at basic training shortly before his graduation, where he was number one and got 40. He was awarded $500 for being the Distinguished Honor Graduate. He was so excited about that, right? And very humble, because in the letter he didn't even tell his grandparents that he was going to be number one, that he was number one. He was the best soldier and the fastest runner, right? And ended up going to Fort Bliss, ADA, that's Air Defense Artillery. Those are those Patriot missiles. And he was assigned to Fort Bliss in El Paso. And as soon as he got there, they were deployed to Qatar. And this is Qatar, okay, or Qatar. You can say Qatar, Qatar. I've heard it both ways, and that's Doha, right? And I think it's uh, very clear where this is. This is the Strait of Hormuz that everybody is looking at now, right? This is Iran. This is the Strait of Hormuz. This is where Crag Island is, right? Isn't that it right there? There's that island, right? That is so valuable, right? That's where all of these tanker ships go to fill up with oil. The world's big port right there. And here is Qatar, uh, eh, totally strategic. And we have a base there. And this is where Richard first started reporting. He said, there was so much corruption within his unit, with his leadership, okay, with the U.S. Army at this base. Now, this is important because I'm going to tie everything together with what's going on in El Paso, with the cartel, with AMLO, President AMLO, the former president of Mexico, very well respected president of Mexico, that confirmed that what the governor of Chihuahua has been doing uh, is treason. He called it out for what it is. And what she did was an agreement with Governor Abbott to access um, federal databases, right? Intelligence databases let the FBI access Chihuahuan Mexican intelligence databases, and in turn, reciprocal, they were accessing our intelligence databases. And, uh, you can even put in Fort Huachuca there because Fort Huachuca is military intelligence. So they were absolutely giving access to uh, to that information. And we know that Maru Campos, it's been confirmed that she's cartel. Okay. And we know that El Paso is has been infiltrated with the El Paso cartel in alliance with Mexican cartels like the CJNG, like the Sinaloa cartel, like the Juárez cartel. Well, La Linea is the branch off of the CJNG that are the ones that go out and take life, right? They take life, and they derive from their headquarters area is the Nova Casa Grandes area, which are the Mormon faction colonies that are part of this whole investigation from the very, very beginning. So we know that Fort Bliss has also been infiltrated with uh, this cartel, okay? Be it El Paso cartel, CJNG cartel, Juarez cartel, you know, uh, Sinaloa cartel. They have infiltrated into our military, and especially there in El Paso. And here they are having this connection with Qatar and being corrupt there. Okay, and now you have Maru Campos making an illegal agreement with Governor Abbott, and he knows because he's been at the dinners and having parties with the CJNG cartel in El Paso, right? With the El Paso cartel. Okay, the El Paso cartel is very real and really has many different faces. It's like the god with the many different faces. They're with the CJNG, they're with the Juarez, they're with the Sinaloa, you know, and they are absolutely whatever face you want them to be. And Governor Abbott was it's confirmed that he was with them. He was allying with them, and with the very public agreement that and it was an illegal agreement because it was giving access where they don't have authority. They don't have authority over FBI databases, CIA databases, um, the intelligence databases, to all the cases, to undercover agents, informants, whistleblowers. And we know that the FBI there in El Paso has been infiltrated because Colin Wetton, the assistant special agent in charge, and I think he's like this special agent in charge because he has been there throughout all of this. Okay, I think he has outlived like six different special agent in charge there at the El Paso field office for the FBI. He's always been there, but they switch over the face of it, right? But he is really the one that absolutely thought it was okay, that Maru Campos and Greg Abbott made this illegal agreement to share intelligence data with each other, right? And give access to their people on both sides, right? And here it is, President AMLO that has the foresight or should I say, the guts to come out and say this is treason. And yes, it's treason on Maru's part, but it's treason also on Governor Abbott's part. And it is an alliance that, it doesn't matter if you're a party. She's not, Maru Campos is not loyal to her PAN party, right? Her PAN party might be infiltrated with Sinaloa, but her her loyalty, I don't even know if it's with the Sinaloa, the Chapitos arm of the Sinaloa cartel, because she seems to be making deals with anybody. And that seems to be the same case. I think they're cut out of the same cloth as Governor Abbott. He's not loyal to the conservatives, the Republican Party. He's making deals and going to CJNG parties. Are you kidding me? I mean, CJNG are the most vile and vulgar, flesh peddling, flesh eating. You know, it's so bad. And he's like, okay, you know, I don't want. I don't have access to uh, these cases, to this investigation. I'll leave it up to those investigators. But the investigators need to be scrutinized because we know that Colin Wetton is up to no good. We also know that the special agent in charge right now doesn't seem to be doing much good either, because you have two CIA agents that have lost their lives, and they seem to be from this Mormon faction group with an alternative conflict of interest loyalty, right? And we know that Colin Wetton is from there. He might be dual citizen, right? He might be a dual agent. Uh, but we know that his loyalty is not with the American Constitution, to the American people, to the United States, to the border. No, the border is very fluid for the cartel. And when Maru Campos met, and she has the title of governor, with Greg Abbott, who also has the title of governor, I don't think it was the governor of Chihuahua and the governor of Texas really meeting. I think it was two cartel bosses meeting, right? Two cartel bosses that were meeting to be up to no good, to be up to no good. So I wanted to give that foundation before, I really go into what's going on in Qatar, because when you're infiltrated in Richard's unit, and they were absolutely infiltrated, then you're transporting the cartel, be it a Mexican cartel or American cartel, the El Paso cartel or the CJNG cartel or the Juárez cartel, or you know, you're uh, you're deploying the cartel to Qatar, okay? To Qatar. And let's look at some pictures of Qatar, because I think it's very interesting for people to see the pictures of Qatar. This is not like some kind of desert place, right? This place has some wealth, okay? It has some major wealth, okay? And yeah, it's just amazing what's there. And now you understand why Tucker Carlson went there and bought property there, right? He bought property. I like, oh, okay, I'm going to move to Qatar. I want to be in Qatar. I mean, my goodness, um, with places like this, you know, uh, this must be something else, right? This must be wow. Um, that's a unique piece of architecture right there. Um, that tells a lot, right? So this is Qatar, and so it's not like a poor country. That's what I'm saying. And when Richard was deployed there, this is where the distinguished honor graduate said, "I made the wrong decision. I should not have joined the military. I need to do my promised time, you know, but I'm not going to make a career out of the military." And I know that because that's what he told us. He said it's so bad. The corruption is so bad. Okay. We also know that Nadal Baim, a Palestinian arms dealer who went to school right here in Kuwait, right here. This is where, uh, this is where Nadal Baim went to school. Okay, even though he's Palestinian, he someone sent him here. Someone sent him here, Kuwait City, to go to school, and um, and that's where he went to grade school. It was a British school, believe it or not. It was a British school that is right here in Kuwait. And he was just, if you don't know who Nadal Baim is, he's the Palestinian arms dealer from El Paso that went into the Dollar General store on October 26, 2020, while we were there doing our rallies and meeting amazing El Pasoans. Um, and he handing out flyers, and these two wonderful people took flyers and said, or even asked me, um, and I remember where we were, and when they asked me, can we have extra flyers so we can put them up on the shop that we work at? And I'm like, absolutely. And then it was, I don't know how much later, days or a week went by, or whatever, and I got a phone call and said, ma'am, you've got to come, because a man just came in here and just left and said that didn't have good news. This was October 26, 2020. And he said that Richard had been trafficked um, to Mexico. His body was. He was not alive. And that he needed that the cashier there and her co-worker needed to take down the flyers because he was no longer alive. And he also impersonated an FBI agent. He said he was an FBI agent, and he's not. He's a Palestinian arms dealer. But this is what's the big, even more so. He is cartel. He is cartel, and that is absolutely confirmed that Nadal uh, Tassin, Tassin Bayim is cartel, and also the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of 32nd ADCOM. Our sons, our sons command. So this is operations. G3 is operations, right? This is intelligent. This is access to top secret intelligence information. And this involves this area, the Qatar, the Strait of Hormuz, the island where all the oil tankers, ships come to stop and fuel up. And and then also right there where Nadal Baim just recently tried to flee to with $44,000 of stolen money. So this is not something we make up. This is the facts. Okay? And that the Mexican and the American, I would say the El Paso cartel, absolutely have access to Qatar. Okay? To Qatar, Qatar. I've heard both ways. So, yeah, so this is really the infiltration into our military, the infiltration into our justice system, the infiltration into our, well, look, you've got these cartel bosses that are posing as governors, meaning they don't have any authority, federal authority, to make this kind of deal, to give access to the FBI. They're nothing. They're just cartel thugs. That's what they are, and they have through deception gained trust by the people enough to get a vote to infiltrate the governor's position to weaponize it, to misuse it for their cartel activities. That is clear as anything, clear as anything. To have control over the border, to have control, so much so that they can infiltrate our military, so that they can infiltrate the very strategic points in the world, like the Strait of Hormuz or Qatar. Okay. And we have it from our own son that said, it is so bad. It is so bad. You know, we all expect that things aren't always going to be on the up and up. But when it's so bad that it shocks you, that everything that you've been working for so hard and your dreams to be a CID agent, to make a career out of the military, you say, hell no, I'm not going to do that now. I am going to do my few years that I promised to do, and I'm going to get out, and I'm going to get out. And then when he got back to El Paso, but I want to show this video because I think it's really important, and it tells you the infiltration, how far it goes, and how it connects with the Mexican cartel, because it has to do with Qatar, with Qatar.
The guys that took $1.5 million, cash influence, 4 people were arrested by Belgian police, you know, rule of law. There was a whole thing that you did on this Qatar corruption scandal at the European Parliament. Can you tell me more about this? Because the reason why this is important is you watch somebody who used to be a reasonable sound or voice, and then all of a sudden, boom, position flips. What happened there? It throws a lot of people off because some people feel the need to still be loyal to this person.
Right.
Like, well, if he says it, there must be a reason behind it. What happened in EU? Because you were one of the front and center in this. You did this. You exposed this. Go for it.
Well, obviously nothing. Nothing happened. I mean, in theory, the investigation is still open, it's still on. But my expectation from what we found out about Vice President of the European Parliament, Eva Kaili, socialist, she was arrested with 2 suitcases of cash. Like, she had 2 suitcases. Her father was arrested with the suitcases full of cash. And you don't need like 3 or 4 or 5 years of investigation to find out that someone was paid by Qatar. We know they Qatar.
How did she get caught?
Well, they put the agents around, and she was under surveillance for some time, even her car. Yeah.
So who was surveilling her?
Belgian police and Belgian services.
Good for them.
It's not European service, not European Parliament services. No. That was Belgian police.
How different is that? Can you, to the average person?
Okay,
that doesn't know?
we've got organization which is called OLAF.
Okay.
It's anti-corruption kind of European institution, right? To make sure that everything is okay in the European Parliament. It's not them. It's Belgian authorities took the job and started, but nothing. She's out. She's out. She was arrested, but now she's out, and they're still investigate what happened. I know what happened. Qatar paid money to the people who were in favor of their businesses. It started when Qatar, we had the scandal with people dying on the sides of the stadiums. They were dying working there, and then Qatar wanted to do a beautiful PR for themselves. So it was easy to buy like 15, 20 MEPs, and it's not a problem at all for them. That's why when I see people from MAGA movement who change overnight, over a week, I'm always like, who paid you? Why did you betray? How big cash had to be? Because I can't see, because we've got very influential people. We had, and we still have some, but we had very influential people in MAGA movement. I say conservatives around the world, right? And suddenly some of them changed completely. I can't believe that this kind of change is natural. It's not. If you're intelligent, it's not natural. I don't think so.
So you think some of that is happening in different countries around the world? Like if you were
I know.
Qatar, so if you're Qatar, think like they do. Who would you target if you're Qatar? You have money. You're doing cash. You did this to a member of the EU Parliament. So, and she got away with it. Olaf didn't do anything. You know.
Well, Qataris would attack U.S. and Israel. That's obvious.
So give me names. So if you're Qatar, think like Qatar. Who would you target?
Trump, number one. And
How would you target him?
media. That's how. Well, when they try to build a beautiful PR around the world, they would use influencers, journalists, people who are known around the world with a big audience. They would come and offer a lot of money. For them, it's like a paper. It's like I said that I was in Jerusalem, and I said to the guys, even you cannot pay such money. As Qataris are, there's no limits, right? So if someone, I don't know, making like $20,000 a month, and then you see 20 million a month, or around 200 million, there's no limits. Then you get money and power. So I don't believe that some changes in the MAGA movement are natural, because they are not logical, and I can't see any other reason than money. And my way of thinking is supported by what I've seen in the European Parliament with Vice President of the European Parliament, other MEPs, and nothing's changed. I mean, it's been like a couple years now. They are out, and I don't think there will be any consequences. So when others around the world see other people, politicians and journalists and influencers, that you are
So, okay. Wow. So what did he say? He was saying that there's so much money in Qatar that they are paying people around the world uh, to influence the world, And we know that El Paso at Fort Bliss is infiltrated with cartel, and they are up to no good in Qatar. And there's a lot of money there. And now we have Maru Campos and Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott, up to no good, up to no good. It would be interesting if they got suitcases full of money. I mean, they had to, if you listen to this, there was so much money going around the parliament there that they even had to dump cash. Like, what did he say? 6,000 or 60,000 in a trash can there. They had to just dump it because of there was too much cash. There was absolutely too much so you see how much money was being made from the trafficking, from the fuel theft, everything that we have been saying. And in order to keep it going, you have to attack. And how do you attack? You attack through what El Paso Community Foundation has been doing with El Paso Matters. You attack through what Fit Fam El Paso is doing. You attack through the media, through the social media. And so you pay influencers, you pay people online to really be vile and vulgar and go after the enemies. And that is their number one target. And we can confirm this from 6 years of investigation because of the Walmart mass shooting orchestration and the staging of that very bloody crime scene. We can confirm that their number one target was President Trump. Was President Donald Trump. That was their target. And that wasn't something that I made up, something that I pushed. That was just, uh, you know, we knew that our son's case, the reason why Richard was killed was because of something with the Walmart mass shooting. And of course, Glennon Oakley Jr. being found not alive in his barracks room just a few weeks before Richard lost his life was also a huge indication that they were silencing witnesses and whistleblowers. And we know through evidence that these influencers were unjustly targeting Glennon Oakley Jr., and we know that it was also internal through the military that were unjustly targeting Glennon Oakley Jr., and we know that with Richard, that it was his unit, his chain of command, that targeted him as soon as he started reporting, which was he started reporting because of Cutter. Okay, he started reporting because of what he saw in Cutter, and of course what he saw on base, and we know that it had to do with them bringing in the young girls and onto base to compromise the soldiers so that there would not be whistleblowers, other people that you know, received courage from um, Richard Halliday and also would stand up. They brought in the drugs, they brought in the young girls, 14-year-old girls living in the barracks. This was all done by these cartel compromised military infiltrators and to silence them. And they videotaped that. That's why Richard made the CPS complaints with handing in the videos because they would airdrop these videos. This is what our 6 years of talking to people have confirmed, that they were airdropping these videos to silence, or even had them, the really worst of the worst ones, to blackmail and silence any soldier that had any backbone that would want to speak out. And they also used the guard mount. Remember that, because Tavita Nusa, Richard's platoon leader's cousin, was CID. And we know that Marlon Soto Hernandez is related to Marlene Gonzalez, the judge. And they're just up. Look, they're cartel, y'all. They are absolute cartel and up to no good, right? And so everything is coming together, but it shows that Greg Abbott was uh, well, somebody got to him. Somebody got to him because he was up to no good, and he didn't mind being with the major money launderers. Remember, CJNG had the slot machines, had the hotels, the timeshares. They got caught in the timeshare fraud and everything. So these were big money launderers, but vile and vulgar, and very, very violent. They still are, and they're in El Paso. They are absolutely infiltrated in El Paso, and we have confirmation of that. So that is huge, huge news when AMLO, the respected former president of Mexico, calls it out as it is. As it is. It's treason. And, and we from the beginning have said something is really weird here, because there seems to be a Mormon faction common denominator with funeral ties, like everyone's in the funeral mortuary business. So they, this is where the organ harvesting trafficking, the body, the flesh peddling trafficking. And then, of course, we know Fort Bliss with 500,000 children being trafficked across the border open wide. Governor Abbott talking all pretty, but absolutely allowing the major invasion into the country when he could have absolutely closed down that border. So, and Maru too. Maru could have closed it too, and protected the sovereignty of Chihuahua and the Chihuahuan people. Because when you have this open border and people are coming through Chihuahua up from who knows where, from Puerto Rico, entering in from Puerto Rico, and I would say, there were a lot of Hezbollah and Chinese coming up through that portal. Um, and of course, you have the main portal door there, the little St. James of Jeffrey Epstein, that went all the way up through Central America, up through Mexico, and right to his front door, the Zorro Ranch. And you can fly there in restricted airspace over White Sands Missile Range. And if you had access to intelligence databases and which covers that airspace, which they did from Fort Huachuca, which we showed you that with his pilot's daughter being an Army officer there in Fort Huachuca, and then having infiltration there at Fort Bliss, and then you have the FBI and the CIA and all of that being infiltrated with cartel. And this is organized crime, okay? Organized crime that are very violent. They bring terror. It's organized crime, and it is absolutely connected to this Strait of Hormuz, to Qatar, to Iran. And Iran is really, it's very clear these few weeks that it's not the people of Iran that are the problem, right? Very clear, because look how restrained President Trump has been. He's been very, very restrained. And right before he went in, after the whole El Mencho raid, and El Mencho lost his life, and President Trump got the intelligence from the raid with the logbooks and the ledgers and all of that. And just 6 days later, he was doing Operation Epic Fury. But before he went in, he said to the Iranian people, help is on its way. And then we hear on the radio the military, the Iranian quote unquote military, that's threatening our Navy. And he didn't have a Persian voice. He didn't seem too Persian. He didn't seem to be Iranian. So and we're learning more and more that they're under the grip of China, and I should say a Chinese faction, right? A Chinese faction. And they're up to no good. And they're just like what's happening in Chihuahua, Mexico, or Texas is happening to the people of Iran. And so I think President Trump is showing really great restraint and trying to convince the Iranians to get organized to become sovereign again, right? So it is, and that's my opinion there. That that comes from the evidence of watching all of this and our son's case, and what Richard told us, that this, if they're up to no good while they're deployed, just think all the resources, the vehicles, the fuel, the weapons, the ammunition, the C4, right? The C4, which is so dangerous. The hand grenades. We know that they were trafficking hand grenades off of Fort Bliss. bringing in and then using the human trafficking, the sex cult activity, the drugs, the alcohol, putting the class 6 right beside the barracks. Class 6 is where you buy hard alcohol, right there beside the barracks, and we know with the soldier that was at Fort Bliss that went to Ukraine to fight, and then he defected to Russia, that he said when he was at Fort Bliss, he just stayed drunk for 2 years, right? And I can't tell you how many times I heard that, right? That they were just having parties, staying drunk, especially during the COVID lockdown and everything. And it was Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz that told me to my face. And then we confirmed it, that they were bringing in young girls into the barracks during the COVID lockdown to have these parties and to compromise our soldiers. Um, and this is very important. Richard's reports um, were answered. There were active investigations because of the reports that he made. And we know that there were those active because we were told. We were told by Brigadier General James Stewart that they were auditing and that they found, all kinds of weapons everywhere, flush with weapons illegally, and, against regulations, these weapons. And, so they were really trying to do everything to compromise our soldiers and give them the worst life possible, so that they could continue to do their organized criminal cartel activity that breached our national security. And this is what is so great about Richard. He didn't participate in any of it. His record is absolutely stellar. Even though they, these suitcases full of money, or maybe Walmart gift cards or whatever they used, they conducted a smear campaign, even from the guard mount, against Richard and his character, and it didn't work. It didn't work. He is a stellar soldier, and that's why, they sent in Ray Velarde to get the information he had, and it must have been so damning that just, you know, a very short time after that, they forcibly removed Richard. Well, they called off his security because he was a whistleblower, so he had 24-hour security, and that person didn't show up, and so they forcibly removed him. I think they organized that, and took him down to the arms room, and took his life. And so I don't know what kind of suitcases of money Sean Bernabe got, the commander of Fort Bliss. I don't know what kind of suitcases of money that Greg Abbott got. I don't know what kind of suitcases full of money that Major General James Eisenhower got. I don't know what kind of suitcases full of money that Maru Campos got. I don't know, these judges, the DAs, the AUSA. I mean, look, there's so much obvious, obvious crimes that Almo, uh, and I hope I'm saying that name right, comes out, the former president of Mexico, respected, and says it's treason. Now, but it has been so obvious. Where is the FBI? Where is the AUSA? Where is the DA's office? Where is Where is Ken Paxton? Right? Where was Ken Paxton during this whole time? So, the crimes of the cartel and the infiltration was so obvious, obvious, that the dereliction in the duties of these officials that we pay with our taxpayer money to do their job, and they were derelict. They did not give us honest service for our taxpayer money. And they're very derelict, that it's causing dead agents, dead soldiers, a lot of death, a lot of children suffering. Um, and what? For what? For the El Paso cartel narco philanthropists to say, oh, I made it to Forbes again. I got my extra billion. But they let the destruction of the entire community, on both sides, the United States side, the El Paso side, and the Juarez side. Um, what, for their, so that they can get their name in Forbes. Yeah, it really is very obvious, how evil they are, how evil they are. So thank you so much. Let me read some of these comments. It's been a really big day, a really big day. Oh, thank you so much, Laura. Thank you for your prayers and your love, every day. Is Trump helping us? 100%. You see a letter behind my shoulder. We received 2 letters from him. Absolutely, he's been helping because he designated the cartel as what they are, the Big T organization, right? That changed everything legally for us, and he also, look at how many cartel he extradited, how many have been arrested, how many have uh, lost their lives. He turned off the U.S. aid, the money that they were fraudulently using. It was meant to go for good purposes, but they were flesh peddling. They were, using that money to do very, very evil things. He has absolutely stopped all the fuel theft with Cesar Paneche, the Attorney General for Chihuahua, for under Maru Campos. He's no longer the Attorney General. It's Cesar Haragi, but Cesar Haragi, he's caught with embezzlement. But President Trump has exposed all this. The embezzler, Bertha Gomez Fong, the wife of uh, Cesar Duarte, she was again arrested. So let's see what happens. How many suitcases of money did she have? But she, is wanted in Chihuahua, Mexico, for embezzlement. Um, and then you have the stopping of the fuel theft through Maduro, the capture of Maduro and the stopping of that in Venezuela, which is very important when you look at the map. You have to get a map out. You have to have a map on your wall. Everyone should have a world map on their wall, to see, to get into perspective what's going on, the geopolitics of everything. So, yeah. The negative comments are unnecessary. Yeah, they are. They're very unnecessary. We're just trying to get to the truth. What they did to our son was an act of war. What they did to our son was just, it was, I just can't even, I still, um, yeah, it's so bad. It is so bad. And those are his words too. Not to mention the dual citizen of the Mormon faction cartel. Yes, this gives them extra access, and also access into the FBI and to the CIA and to the law enforcement community, the DA's office, the USA's, the judicial system, into the business world, right? Any kind of look at the oversight of the crematorium where we believe our son's remains are. That was supposed to, the oversight was Maru Campos's mother, and she allowed that place to work without permits, without license, no water, no air condition. For over 400 bodies, rotting bodies, and absolute rat infested filth allowed to be flesh peddled while fraudulently fake with deception, saying, "Oh, I care about you and your family. Let me have your mommy's body," and then giving an urn full of construction dust to the families while flesh peddling their loved ones. It's just it's sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious, and God is no buttercup. So, yeah, they've just crossed the line. They're not human anymore. They're just demons. Um, that FIFA World Cup is something else. Funny how, yes, it's going to be, and you see President Trump trying to keep it all together, right? You see him trying to keep it all together, keep the military together, our country together, the sports world together, not to give an inch to let them have it. Now he's showing the fraud, right? With the reflecting pool. Because I really love architecture. I love that, and I think that's one of the things that I love so much about President Trump. When I read through his financials, the fact of what he has built, his financials are amazing. This was in 2015, y'all. In 2015, we read through his financials, and what he builds. He's a builder, and just taking over Turnberry, that was just a falling apart place in beautiful Scotland, and turning it into this beautiful resort, golf area, bringing in so many jobs to that area. Uh, and it's so beautiful until they brought in the windmills, right? But yeah, he's just a builder, and that really gave immediate respect to him, because he was building all over the world, and that is hard work. That is hard work, to get permits, and to get contractors, and good contractors to build good quality structures. So, um, his trying to keep Washington D.C., give it back its beauty, with the reflecting pool, right? The reflecting pool was just a mess, and now he's, instead of, what was it, like $300 million in 3 years, he's doing it for 2 million, a little over $2 million, and in 1 week. It's just amazing. Giving us a ballroom at our White House, because that's our house, right? Giving us a ballroom, very respected capital of the United States, giving us respect back in our military, even though it's infiltrated. I report on that, but we've always been Go Army. My husband, 30-year veteran, right? But we don't want to give over our Navy. We don't want to give over our Army to these cartel. We have to fight. We have to fight, fight, fight for it. And so we're in that fight right now, for our country. And I hope that the people of Mexico will get a leader that will fight for Mexico, because Maru Campos doesn't care about Mexico. She's embezzling from the very people, and stealing the fuel. Remember, the fuel was from Pemex, was from the Mexican people's fuel. So yeah, it's very obvious they are just cartel, um, cartel thugs, and they are doing a lot of damage. So it is treason, because they're not loyal to their oath that they took. Um, Jerry, I think you're a complete moron. Yes, thank you. Um, for, because people come on, and it's we've just been through so much because of these suitcases of money that they pay to shut us up. You just wouldn't even imagine what we've been through as a family, trying to get answers about our son. They absolutely orchestrated asymmetric warfare against us. We even caught our casualty affairs officer, Joshua Lyons, um, conducting asymmetric warfare tactics against us. It's like, really? Yeah, we've had several, half a dozen casualty affairs officers through all this, and um, yeah, and I think we're not finished yet because we need our son's body. We want our son's body, and we know that they have our son's body and partial remains. So, this is our goal. Keep exposing the corruption in our government, our judges, DAs. Absolutely. Because we just don't want anyone else to have to go through what we've gone through, you know? No. And we'll lose our country. We'll lose our country if we don't keep going. And so, I want to make sure everyone understands this, that we love you, because um, it is because of the support. We're over 50,000 on Facebook with shadow banning. That's amazing, right? With all of the uh, suitcase full of money people, right? Um, that were against us. We have so much support, and the sharing is incredible. And it's the sharing and the support that has moved this case forward. Okay, it's been an absolute effort um, by all of us to move this case forward. It's a teamwork. Yeah, it's a patriotic team effort to save our countries on the Mexican side and on the U.S. side, um, and it's we just are very grateful. We're very, very grateful. And today has been behind the scenes a great display of that teamwork, a great display. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later. So, thank you so much, everybody. And please keep sharing, share even more, because the time is right. The time is right. Everything is being, we have AMLO now on our side, right? So this is amazing, that to have AMLO and to have President Trump on our side, and moving forward like this, building. You have beautiful structures, beautiful buildings, the fountains, the Lafayette fountains, right? That President Trump posted today, that are working, that haven't been working in decades, and he got them working again. This is, to build something beautiful for beauty and glory, but also for justice. We need to have justice to preserve our beautiful communities. So we need to make our communities beautiful, and we need to preserve the justice to keep it that way. So thank you so much, everyone. That's the sharing, sharing, sharing. It's really amazing. And also, I did want to mention real quick before I go that there is the cement lake called the Portland Reservoir that has a 40-foot dam that seems to be failing. And this is something we're keeping a very close eye on, because we remember what happened when the dams and everything flooded out from Kerrville, right? And all those people were killed. So we wanted to mention that anyone that lives in that area, they need to keep a very close eye on what's happening at the dam at Cement Lake, also called Portland, Portland Reservoir. It's a very deep, because it was a quarry, so it's very deep there, and that's why the Corps of Engineers from the Army are there, trying to stop the damage, stop the potential breach of the dam that could cause so much problems. Um, it seems to be getting worse though, and they're trying to pump water out of it, but it's so deep it must be a spring, because they can't get the water level down, and they're pumping. So now there's also this talk, and I want to be very honest with everybody, that it was just bought. So I don't know what's going on, if there's foul play with it. So we're keeping a close eye on that situation. And if anyone has inside knowledge or tips, please let us know, because that area is it's right smack in the middle of the area of this investigation. So thank you so much. God bless you, and